Hello and welcome. This is October the 27th, I believe. And yes, it's still a record setting temperature for the nation's capital. We're hard to believe that we're actually outside on such a date, but it's great to be out here. We're going to milk every hour, every day we can out of this weather. I'm here, of course, with my partner, Laura Peck. And welcome to Communicate with Power. This is a podcast that covers everything. It could be politics, it could be news, it could be the world of entertainment. And pretty well this past week, we've had quite a few of those things. We're also joined by our third guest today, otherwise known as Teddy. Teddy, say hello. And the reason why we brought Teddy was to remind us a little bit of the season. So this is his new costume that he's going to be wearing on Halloween. Laurie, I guess our daughter Caroline chose this for him. And Teddy, turn around, say hello. Now, Laura, why else would we bring Teddy in here? Just because I guess we mention him in every second post we ever do.
That is absolutely true. He is the best dog there ever was, and just came back from a big dog walk and walked with about 5 other dogs, and it's just a glorious day.
Yeah.
So, good day
Yeah.
to talk about politics, current events.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we even went to a wedding on the weekend, and all people wanted to do was talk politics.
Yeah, I noticed when I show up, it sort of changes into what do you think of this and what do you think of
It
that?
does change the temperature, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So anyway, although we also had a great couple of things that occurred this week. Uh, well, in the bigger news scheme, we started to read and see photos of our former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau with Katy Perry.
And apparently all the algorithms started to change because everybody raced to watch that picture and story of them in Paris. So
No, I didn't really race to see
I
that.
did.
It just was there. But I don't want to boast, but you and I actually met Katy Perry. I'm talking like 15 years ago. And it was the occasion of the first inauguration of Barack Obama. And we were, selected to welcome the VIPs to the inaugural balls, what they called the home state balls. This would be the balls for Hawaii, of course, in Barack Obama's case, for Illinois, for Pennsylvania because of Joe Biden, because it was
Hawaii.
It was, yeah, we got all that. It's the Obama Biden inauguration, and we were asked to welcome the VIPs. Now, couple of Canadians, the Secret Service. But actually, it turned out to be a pretty amazing evening. Not at all what we had expected. We showed up ready to volunteer for anything, and they selected us. So there you go. And there was Katy Perry. So, Laura, tell us about that amazing few moments we spent. Not quite the level of connection that Justin Trudeau had with her, but what was that like?
It was one celebrity after the other, frankly, and all these politicians, they came through what was called the VIP entrance, but they had to have an official invitation in order to get in. So we were the two people, along with the Secret Service, who had to sort of make sure that they had this with them. So she was standing there. So of course I chatted her up because it takes a while to get in, to get processed. So they wanted to make sure that these people had something to do, something to talk about as they were going in.
And you seem to know her hits. I mean, I'll be honest with
did.
you, I didn't really. So you had more points of connection with her. Justin Trudeau was nowhere around in those days, so it was kind of a neat experience. We met a number of people, Denzel Washington, Oprah, the usual celebrities we don't normally bump into in our course of work. But I had to say it was pretty neat, and they were very down to earth, very enjoyable to meet, and they were quite surprised constantly to find out we were being greeted by two Canadians, which was just one of those strange coincidences that occurred. So we were very honest with them. We told them we were accidentally selected. No, we were part of the whole team. We had gone down to the training for the previous 3 weekends to get ready, and they made sure to tell you, dress that you could be outside or inside. Now, being Canadians, we know how to layer. It was like the coldest day of the winter in Washington, and we layered for the cold. So on the outside, I had a tuxedo, but there were several layers of clothing under it. And Laura, you had this amazing, dress, but of course she had this long cardigan with a fur collar, and that became an interesting little thing. People
Yeah.
really noticed that fur collar of yours, and you did have this moment with Oprah right at near the end of the evening.
Anyway, what I want to
Well,
talk
we got to
about.
we got to mention Oprah. I start up the Oprah thing. So Oprah walks through with her entourage. On her way out, she sees Laura again. She says to her entourage, "Just a minute," and she dashes across the lobby and runs her hands up and down the fur collar that you had said. She said to you, "I just had to do that. Sorry," and then she dashes out. But it was one of those evenings where every crazy thing that you could imagine did happen, and it was a lot of fun. So that was my Katy Perry moment that came back to me.
Well, we might have more because she likes Halloween, and
Oh,
so does the former prime minister there.
yes, he was trick or
Yeah,
treating with his kids all around here
yeah,
for
every
for quite
year.
a number of of Halloween. So you
But
never
it's going
know.
to rain this year,
I won't
so
stop him if he's in
yeah,
town.
but it might be all rained
If
out.
Katy
So
Perry shows up at our door, I don't know. We'd have to see. Should we let her? I don't know. We'll decide that at the time. Anyway, we had another interesting thing that occurred with regard to people that are quite well known, and that is to meet the author of the book John Candy: A Life in Comedy by Paul Myers. Now, that name Myers might ring a bell with you. He is the brother, one of the two brothers actually, of Mike Myers, and that was really great. I attended a little armchair discussion with him, presentation, signing the book, and he signs the book. This is interesting. He signed this book to me after we chatted. Barry, it's the news. That was the name of my television series that my friend Ken Shaw and I had pitched and did for 2 seasons with Global TV many years ago. And he immediately said, "Shh, it's the news. We watched every episode." And that was great that he and his brother apparently were big fans of Shits the News. We got into that discussion. Next thing you know, he's writing this down on the book. So I thought it was pretty neat. And of course, the real thing here was about John Candy. And I had mentioned to him that I did indeed have a couple of connections with John Candy. One of them was Ken and I auditioned him and Danny Aykroyd for a television pilot that we were going to do before we got final green light on it. And so he was amazing, hilarious, and also very humble. He was just the year before he and Danny became big stars. It was a year before SNL. They were both in Second City, the theater stage show in Toronto. And I think this was a sketch that they had done quite a few times in the Second City stage show. So this is how that all came about. And
and speaking
just
of
a
writing
wonderful experience.
books,
Yeah,
you're writing a new Pocket Tips.
I am, Laura. Thank you for
So,
mentioning that. And
if
the
you
Communicate with Power series, people might remember. Oh, I don't even bring them with me, but my Pocket Tips booklets. We're doing a new one called "Getting Your Message Across in an Age of Uncertainty," and we are filled with uncertainty. So this is one I'm just doing the. It's always been delayed, but anyway, I'm trying to get it finished so we can get that published and out there, and we'll let you know about that in a future podcast episode. So, Laura, when I say uncertainty to you, you and I did a course. We did a 1 day seminar at Cape Breton University Shannon School of Business back
we
in
did
June.
another one at Ottawa
Yeah,
U.
but the uncertainty thematic was very important to that one, and I was blown away by how interested people were. They like 118 people registered for it within 2 weeks. We were completely stunned. We never get numbers like that, and
But
uh,
that's because we did it hybrid. So there
oh
were a
yeah,
certain number in the classroom, but then it's all the
the
other
majority
people.
were virtual. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was really all about communicating. How do you get that message across in an uncertain world? And we do live in an uncertain world. It isn't just because of tariffs, but obviously when you don't know what the price of products are downstream, when you don't know how much you're going to be paying out of it, when you're not sure you can even sell it, when there are barriers to entry being put up. Canadians are obviously in a very upset frame of mind. We had that whole thing happen last week with regard to the advertisement, the commercial put up by the government of Ontario with Doug Ford, really, using a Ronald Reagan video to get across the fact that Republican leaders of the past have been totally
But the earned
against tariffs and always in favor of free trade.
but
So that's
talk
quite a
about the
big
earned
change.
media. They got a lot
Yeah,
of earned media.
yeah, they did. I mean, it was such huge uproar over it. that they probably, gained, as you said, earned media. They probably got multiples of audience eyes on this that they otherwise would have got. So that, however, created quite an international. Trump knows how to turn something into something much bigger than it is. He gets so angry, claiming that it was twisted, that it was distorted, that it was misinformation, and
That it
basically
was fake, that it was
fake. He went on about
AI.
fake, and really, I'm sorry, but it wasn't fake. Yes, there was a sequence in the original video which I did watch. Reagan used to do these radio addresses. They put a camera on them from time to time, so you're able to watch it on YouTube. But he was imposing a temporary tariff on Japan over a very specific problem they were having in the semiconductor uh, area back and forth in terms of exports and imports. And he made it clear, though, that he was opposed to this as a policy and wanted it to end as quickly as possible. But he wanted it to do, some, something to do with the Japanese importing their products. So I guess in the end, though, it created such an uproar that not only Trump. It was funny because Trump began to say, all right, I'm going to slap a 10% tariff on all Canadian goods, treated as a Canadian insult to him. And so it became really something very controversial. We end up with a threat now of an extra 10% tariff. So I think the only thing that should now be said is that, well, if he wants to add 10% to the costs of all products to the American consumer, then I guess he has the right to do that because tariffs, in the end, are paid for by the end consumer. They're not swallowed by the distributor, they're not swallowed by the wholesale importer. They are transferred ultimately to the consumer of those products. So that's the reality of it. If he wants to tax Americans more and more at a time when they're having great difficulty putting food on the table for their families, I guess he has the right to do that. All because he got emotional and angry about this commercial. So that's just part of the uncertain world that we're in. And it's sometimes a surprising thing, Laura. I mean, would you ever have predicted that a commercial by a provincial government would trigger a nationwide 10% tariff? Would that ever have been in your imagination, even?
No, I would not have predicted it. And Premier Ford said today that yes, they're going to pause the commercial for right now. By the way, the Wab Canoe, Premier Wab Canoe, he also
Manitoba.
did. He did sort of a he was in front of a TV and did one himself, and it was clever. It was funny.
But the BC Premier David Eby is threatening to do another one. I think maybe we've learned. Okay, we now know what we're dealing with. So now, when you do a commercial, it can't be any surprise. We'll get another 10% tariff. In other words, we are dealing with somebody that treats these personally um, and reacts very quickly with a new threat, a new actual tariff that he's going to put in place. So that's what you're dealing with, and therefore my recommendation would be not to do that. So the real question becomes, okay, now what? What should Canada do going forward? Well, here's the thing. Just from every conceivable thing, David Frum was saying. I attended a conference last week, and he was saying very clearly that uh, Donald Trump is so committed to tariffs. He totally believes them. He does not at all believe in free trade, that they will continue as long as he is president. I completely agree with that. Nothing Canada says or does is going to roll them back in any significant way. We might get some relief here and there, but in exchange for what? One thing about Trump is you know, don't give him something, and expect anything in return, and vice versa. If you really want him to pull the plug, what are you offering him? And so it cannot be something little, it's got to be something huge. So in the end, I don't think this is going to get resolved, whether his presidency ends in 2028 or not. And that's a whole
He's
other
going to
subject.
try to take a third term.
Well, that's,
And
again,
well,
another.
his people are already signaling that they are. And usually, when he says something, he means it. He's
Now,
going to
Laura,
follow
I'll
through.
believe that when they tear down the White House. Oh, no, I guess that's
That's sort
kind
of
of,
happened.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
sort of there. Yeah, that's another, I think, discussion point. I actually, if if America's laws somehow would get changed to allow this, it would be another
They're going to
a
figure out
shock,
a
but
way
maybe
to
not a
do it.
shock.
Yeah.
Anyway, the bottom line is that I think we have to buckle down, uh, you know, get the head down,
Steve
see what.
Bannon said that he's
Yeah,
going to do it, so whatever he says usually
yeah.
happens.
But anyway, I think that's right now. I don't want to keep escalating the threat potential of all this. All I'll say is that we have to realize that we have to do our best in these negotiations, see if we can get them back on track. We have to do that. These are very harmful and damaging to Canada. There's no question about it, but they're also very harmful to the American consumer. And that's a message that hasn't fully got through. And so it does take, I think, Americans telling Americans, hey, guess what? Who pays for all these tariffs that we're slapping on Canada and elsewhere? Whoops, it's the American consumer. That's the missing part of that puzzle that has to come in place. So I'm not the advocate here. It's going to be the American public taking hold of this, being aware of it and taking hold of it and making it clear to their elected representatives that, why are you attacking us? We don't need to pay any more in taxes. You need to take those off. It's the American people that will decide that ultimately, and so we'll see what happens on that front. So there's just a little, you know, insight into a couple of things that have been occurring, and we have a dog here that is anxious for Halloween and all the extra attention he's probably going to get. I usually dress up. Laura and we have dressed up in the past for everybody. I've done Trump several times. I've done Biden. I've done uh, I've done Bernie Sanders. I've done a
I
few
was Sarah Palin.
years
I
there. Yeah,
was
Melania.
Jill. I
You were
was
Jill. But
Melania.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to do that this year. I
It's
don't
gonna
dare.
rain.
I don't dare do another Trump. So I got to think about this. I may not. I may just hand
Any
out candies.
suggestions?
Yeah, I may just hand out candies.
Yeah.
But anyway, we want to wish all of
I
you.
bought some candies, but they're all gone.
Oh, yeah, somebody else took them, I guess. Anyway, we want to wish all of you a happy
Happy
Halloween,
Halloween.
and we hope you don't get too scared. And let's just keep our fingers crossed and keep moving forward. So until next time, we hope that you too can communicate with power.